Aloha and good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from Livestream.travel and eTurboNews in Honolulu, Hawaii. And with me is Peter Tarlow, as always, from Texas. And we're talking about today's news, a lot of things happening in the world. And welcome, Peter. How's everything in Texas?
Things are good in Texas. We were supposed to have the rain from Hawaii from yesterday, but somehow it never quite showed up. So instead of having rain, it was a little cool, but it was nice blue skies. Everybody seemed to be in a happy mood. So I got to be thankful for what you got. Now, who knows if it'll rain, but you know something? The plants like it when it rains. So, you know, if the biggest problem I have is some rain, I consider myself very lucky. In a world where we have all sorts of stuff going on, and of course, tomorrow is the inauguration in the United States, which is, of course, local American news. But I think that any of our listeners who are Americans will join me no matter what your politics are. We all want to wish President Biden good luck and hope that he will be a successful president, because it's inconsequential if you're a Republican or Democrat. I think all of us should always want the president of the United States, whomever he or she might be, to be a success. When the president's a success, we're all a success. So my prayer is tonight that tomorrow President Biden starts his administration on the right foot. Right. So having said that, we have had a busy news day today. Some of the things that we might talk about is what's going on in the Caribbean with the new head of Sandals, Stuart Adam, taking the reins from his father, who recently, unfortunately, died. Issues of cruise tourism and the fact that Princess Cruises has now decided to have no cruises until at least April. Who knows what they'll do in April, but at least they were talking about no cruises from the United States, but now they're saying worldwide. And of course, tragically, the spread of COVID and new strains that we don't really understand. I was reading about some of the problems in Germany where it being extended. Israel extended its lockdown for another 2 weeks. Issues going on in Dubai, in India, and various places around the world. So those are at least a few things we might want to begin to talk about. And we might also mention the fact that the UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, had, I guess you'd call it, the first stage of an election. Maybe that's the best way of phrasing it. And the current president general manager, not general manager, the general secretary was hypothetically reelected for another term. So where would you like to begin?
Well, let's begin with UNWTO, because this is important news in the travel and tourism industry. The Executive Council yesterday met in Madrid. Executive Council are actually 35 countries. The World Tourism Organizations, their members are usually countries, and 35 countries represent 150 some countries that are members. The Executive Council is always elected for 2 years, and they met and they're putting a recommendation together for the General Assembly, what is supposed to be in October in Morocco, to recommend for the current Secretary-General Zurab to be reconfirmed for another 4 years. This time, this was highly controversial because the election was moved from usually May to January in the midst of Corona. And many say it was done so it made it impossible for other candidates to sign up. 6 of them or 7 of them tried, 1 only succeeded. The 6 others that signed up were turned down because of bureaucratic reasons.
Difficulties.
And the election then happened, and within a day before, there was an add-on to the official program that the foreign minister from Georgia, and this is the home country for Zurab, country of Georgia, hosted an official dinner, what is also seen as highly unethical for a country that is competing with another country to host the official dinner. So a lot of things there had big question marks. And really hardly anyone showed up from the ministers. So the election was a proxy election. And it
Yeah.
turned out that those that actually did show up in the midst of Corona, because you couldn't vote
Sure.
virtually.
And you really couldn't get to Spain, which is under lockdown.
Exactly. So he got a majority of the votes of 25 or 26, while Her Excellency, who from Bahrain, who was running against him, only counted to 8 or 9 votes. But keep in mind, these are proxy votes for the most part.
So just very quickly, why would anybody outside of the narrow world of political tourism care about who is the Secretary General of the UNWTO? How does that impact a tourism business or tourism industry? Or maybe it doesn't. And maybe it's really the World Tourism Network is the important place for businesses to be going to.
Yeah, it's really, UNWTO is a political organization. You can say there's dealing and wheeling. There are countries get positions because of favors they do sometimes in completely different segments in politics. And it's not really an organization, in my opinion, what could have a lot of effectiveness, except for having the public sector, of course, behind them. The private sector is equally, if not even more important. The key organization for the large businesses in the private sector is the World Travel and Tourism Council. And I know from people who don't want to be named, but these are people in very high positions in this organization, they are devastated with the response from UNWTO, not only in the election, but in not being able to bring their views to the table. WTTC had a total of 2 minutes to explain the concerns of the private sector.
WTTC, for those who don't know the alphabet soup, stands for
World Travel and Tourism Council.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Now, when it comes to our organization, we're both involved in the World Tourism Network. We're reaching out to the medium and smaller guys, and this is really the largest number. Yeah. And we're not on the table with UNWTO either, you know.
But I think it's important for our listeners to understand that the UNWTO deals with politics. The WTTC deals with large tourism corporations, major hotels, it's large airlines, etc. And the World Tourism Network deals with the smaller and medium guys. So there are 3 different organizations because they're each helping different parts of the tourism industry. And of course, part of the issue of tourism, which is something that makes the news so interesting, there is no such thing as tourism. It's a composite industry made up of airlines and boats and hotels and restaurants and tour guides and tourist offices. So it's a million different components that are all mixed together. And so that really changes the world a lot. Speaking of that, we spoke a little bit about the new head of Sandals. And I think that's really a kind of an interesting phenomenon. For those people who don't know about Sandals, Sandals is probably the largest and groundbreaking all-inclusive hotel chain in the Caribbean. It started off in Jamaica and it's now moved across the Caribbean. And the Butch Stewart, who was kind of the brains behind it, recently, unfortunately, passed away. And he's passed the mantle now on to his son, Adam, who's going to have to really work very hard to, though he's been involved in Sandals his whole life, but maintain the rhythm and take it to the next step, maybe from the 20th century to the 21st century. So this is going to be a real challenge for Adam at a time when tourism to the Caribbean is really down. People are afraid to be on airlines. The cruise industry, as we mentioned, is kind of stopped. And the Caribbean lives on tourism. So without that tourism industry, I think there's a tremendous amount of suffering going across the entire region.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Sandals has been an example in the Caribbean, really trying hard. And if you go and just watch CNN, Fox, or any of the news channels these days, you see Sandals has been reaching out through the entire crisis and reminded people that Sandals is there, and they have been able to send a positive, promising message out. and at the same time being responsible. I think a lot of the hotel groups actually could learn from their policies, and
Yes.
I think it's a good move to have the strong leadership in the organization. It's still really run by a family and not by shareholders for the most part. I think what
Yeah.
shows it makes a difference. It has a
Yeah,
soul
they
behind it.
care.
Yes.
It's when something goes wrong, it's really hurting the whole family name and not just the corporate name. So that's really important. Another shout out we might give to is actually the Hilton chain. I was recently in 2 or 3 Hilton hotels, and I was amazed at what a good job the people in the Hilton chain did dealing with COVID, from not only totally cleaning the room, but sealing the room. So after it's clean, no one can get in until the next guest. And the fact that in 3 different parts of the Hilton chain, 3 different sub brands of the chain, their people were being checked every other day. And at least they reported that to me. And that was really, I was really impressed that they were having that level of testing and that level of caring. So I think the hotel industry is really trying. It has its hands tied a little bit because if you're on a long haul trip, you're kind of dependent on airlines or on boats. You can't drive across an ocean. And people are more reticent to fly than they are to drive right now. So that's a real issue. That's got to be an issue for Hawaii, where people may be afraid to get on a plane to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, I don't blame, and if I see it here in Hawaii from a local perspective, seriously, I don't want any tourists to come in here from California right now. I'm glad we're able to keep the lowest numbers in the nation. It was just confirmed this morning. It's reasonable. Our hospitals have open beds and open intensive care spaces. We don't want this to change, especially not on an island where you can seriously could not
you can't
ship
drive
people.
anyplace.
Yeah, where are you going to ship them? To Los Angeles? I mean, where
Yes.
where people are in the hallway and are turned down.
Yeah, we have the same fear in Texas. We are hoping Californians don't up here either, because we're basically just dealing with our own, and all of a sudden, if we get large influx of people from California, it's going to throw the whole social fabric into another mess. So it's kind of feel bad for California. They're kind of stuck in a very difficult situation, and I guess we can be thankful we don't live there for the moment. Anything else of major news today that we want to talk about before we go off the air?
Well, there's, I think everyone right now is in a wait and see position. Tomorrow is an important milestone in the world with the inauguration. We all hope that our main needs, specifically a distribution of the vaccine, is getting better, because right now it's terrible. There are no real workable plans anywhere, I believe, and it is so important. So I think we should learn from countries like Israel, for example, also like Germany and like other countries in the world that are able to fulfill the need to distribute this vaccine in an efficient way. And we here in the
other
United
part
States
of it,
have to learn.
we really have to hope there are no new strains and no new variations of the disease, because so far it appears that the vaccine can handle these new strains or variations, but who knows? You know, we don't know what the mutations are taking place, and let's hope that the vaccine will work under any mutation, because the last thing we need is to be talking about a mutation that we cannot vaccinate against. That would be really terrible.
Yeah, and it's already something pending. Just hours ago, last night, my time, I watched Spiegel TV in Germany when they reported from a hospital in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, with the south of Munich, where there was a completely new strain of the virus detected, something they haven't seen before. They don't know if it's more or less contagious. They don't know if the virus will attack it or not. So right now it's analyzed. We have to wait for another day to really get more information on it. That, I mean, really hasn't been publicized a lot. I think people are just too scared to come up with rumors and with information like this. But it's an ongoing issue, and it's a fast developing issue. We just need to we just have to be faster than the virus. You know, we have to beat this virus.
And you know, this was a huge success in getting this vaccine out. But now it's the distribution is the issue. And of course, we don't know what the mutations will be. And I realize medical people around the world are working. Certainly the whole tourism industry is holding its breath because with bated breath, because if these vaccines, God forbid, should not work or be new problems develop, it's going to be a very, very long and difficult time. So let's pray, all of us. One, I'm hoping that President Biden will be a success. And two, I'm hoping that we don't have mutations like we do with the flu, where we're going to have to come up with a new vaccine every year or some form of variant of the vaccine. So let's hope that doesn't exist. Well, on that happy note, I want to wish you a good evening. Stay safe, be well, have your vitamin C, have your zinc and D, and get plenty of sunshine, even when it's raining.
And Peter, I can give you the good news. It's actually fairly sunny here today. We have a few clouds, good. And I see people in the water, so it's not all that bad. You know?
Okay, and let's always think, you know, I'm wearing a shirt today from Washington State, and in Washington State, when it rains, they don't have rain; they have liquid sunshine. So just remember, you have sunshine every day. It's either in liquid form or in light form, but try to find the sun wherever you are.
There's one announcement I wanted to remind everybody. Tonight at 11 p.m. Hawaii time, what makes it, of course, in the middle of the night on the U.S. mainland, but later on in the evening for you guys who are in Asia, we have our aviation interest group event with VJ, and we'll be talking about the needs of the aviation industry. It's an interactive discussion with aviation experts. It'll be very interesting, and anyone who's interested or part of the aviation industry should be part of it. There's no cost. It's organized from the World Tourism Network. You can simply go to worldtourismevents.com and sign up and be part of it. Otherwise, of course, you can watch it here where you see us currently live. We will play it live, but worldtourismevents.com gives you a ticket in, and you can actually be part of the audience.
And people can always join or see this broadcast a little bit later on livestream.travel.
Absolutely.
So have a good evening and try to get some rest before your next event. It sounds like a really great event. Here in Texas, it will be definitely the middle of the night and I will be fast asleep, but I will be thinking of you in my dreams.
That's good. We need people dreaming about us. That's a good
All right. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.